Hey y'all, hi. So I really believe that sometimes it makes sense to save up, do your research, and spend kind of a lot for you on something that will last a really long time and give you enduring pleasure and practical use value. But most of us don't have the budget to do that all the time on everything, and it makes more sense for some things than for others. So today we're going to talk about the best and worst things to spend your money on when you're thoughtfully building a long-lasting wardrobe of fewer, nicer things. And some of my ideas might surprise you. If this happens to be your first time to my channel, I'm glad you're here. My name is Hannah. I'm a writer. I just published a book. I'll link that down below. And I also make YouTube videos like these. And if you enjoy it, I hope you'll subscribe. Let's get into the meat of the video. So for me, the basic principle is that money should go into things proportional to how often and how much you touch them. It's as simple as that. Literally how often and how much you touch them. And as soon as I articulated this to myself, everything started to fall into place. So in light of that, the first best thing to spend your money on is jewelry that you always wear. And specifically in this category, I'm putting daily wear earrings. It might not be earrings for everyone. Some of you might have rings that you never take off or even necklaces that you never take off. But I think that earrings are the best example. The kinds of earrings that you put in, that you never take out, that you can shower in, swim in, sleep in, leave in, sometimes literally for years. And often these are earrings in, second and third piercings up here. I'll link all of these guys, the ones that I have down below. I got them all on Etsy. And the little ones, they did cost a lot for what they are. I mean, you can get this kind of thing for just a couple of dollars, but if you sleep in it and especially shower in it and swim in it, the plating will wear off and it'll start irritating your ears pretty quickly. These cost a lot for their size because they're solid gold, and that's what makes them pieces that I can put into my ears and just wear forever. This is the thing, I'm touching them all the time. Like they're always on my body, way more than anything else. In the moment, it feels like a lot for something so little, but according to this principle, this is the number one thing, these daily wear earrings, that I should be allotting my budget to. And since I did it, I've never looked back. I'm so glad that these are what they are, and I've never stopped loving them. They've never worried or irritated or bothered me in any way, not for a second. The really big investment for me was these, the ones that I keep in my front holes when I don't have other larger, more statement earrings in. So they're like the placeholder earrings for my main piercings down here in my earlobe. These are actually diamond huggies. They're paperclip shaped, which makes them a little more of an earring than just a little tiny hoop that really hugs the lobe. And that's part of why I decided to buy them. I felt okay about the amount of money, but you better believe I researched, I saved, I thought about it for a long time. I padded around the purchase by not buying things for a long time before, not buying things for a long time after. It was a big deal for me to buy these, and I did buy them for myself. But I might actually go so far as to say that it was my best purchase of 2023, last year when I bought these, and it's because they've been touching my skin since they came in the mail. They've gone with me everywhere. They were in my ears when I was like giving birth in the hospital, So it has never occurred to me to question the fact that I went for something so high quality and the fact that it cost for me quite a lot of money to buy these. It has never even occurred to me to question them because I touch them all the time, so it's worth it. The second thing that it is a really good idea to spend your money on, and I think that this is one that people often put in the wrong category for various reasons, which we'll get to. The second thing is underwear. Of course, if we're going by this principle, things that you touch all the time, wear the most frequently, it's underwear. You touch it every day, you wear it every day, and it's the closest to your body. It's like no matter what kinds of clothes you're wearing on the outside, you're always, at least most of us are, usually wearing underwear underneath them. So it comes first, right? It's at the top of the list if you're ranking things by how often and how much you touch them. It took me, though, a long time to come around to this because it feels like such a practical thing. And also most people don't see it. Other more visible, more splashy things tend to feel like more glamorous expenditures. And also underwear does wear out over time. So we see it wearing out. We see it needing to be replaced. And when you have underwear that needs to be replaced and you're going to buy more, you're aware that it's going to eventually need to be replaced. So it sort of feels a little bit more disposable, and that can make it harder to spend more money on. But the thing is, if you do allot a little more of your budget to underwear, then it will last longer. And the reason that it's wearing out in the first place is because you touch it and you wear it all the time, and it's close to your body, it's touching your skin. And so it makes a huge difference when it's quality, when you love it, when you love how you feel in it. That can make a huge difference to how you feel in the clothes that you put on top of it. I really came around when I bought a couple of bras from Negative. It's very expensive, especially the underwear and the clothing that they have, like the loungewear that they have. I feel like the cost benefit analysis changes, especially for the loungewear, even though it's really nice. But the bras, the Negative underwear bras, they are so perfect, so comfortable, have never gotten old to me. I absolutely love the designs. I love the fabrics, and they're so expensive. For me at the time, it was like a very expensive bra the first time I bought one. And so then when I went back, which was probably years later, like after years of agonizing about it and really dropped a chunk of money on, I think I probably total have 5, including the original ones. But that means that I can wear one almost all the time. When I did that, that was like the portal to a new phase of life, right? I like walked through the doorway into loving my bra every time and loving every bra that I have on and always having the perfect one to go with everything and never even having to think about it. Just like with the earrings. I walked through that portal, now I'm on the other side, and I'm a huge proponent now of putting your money into underwear instead of getting super cheap disposable underwear that's going to wear out, that's going to look and feel nasty really quickly. It makes a huge difference. Okay, the number 3 best thing to spend your money on is your pair of most worn shoes, your main shoes. Or for me, it ends up being my 2 pairs per season of most worn shoes. So some people just wear the same shoes all the time. So your main shoes, that's just whatever pair of shoes you're wearing every day. Some people maybe have 2 pairs of shoes per season. That's kind of how it works for me. In the summer, I'll have a pair of sandals and then a pair of sneakers that work with almost everything. And in the winter, a pair of sneakers and a pair of boots that work with almost everything. And then there will be these peripheral shoes, like really, really wet weather boots for some seasons, or slightly fancier sandals or heeled sandals in the summer. Those are not my main shoes, but I do end up rotating them in once in a while in the summer. But for those main shoes, whatever those are, that is a really smart place to put your money, because there is a huge difference between shoes that cost a little and shoes that cost a lot. And the difference shows up in the longevity of the shoe, like how many literal years it will last. And that changes the math of how much you spend very quickly. If you buy expensive boots, for example, they'll last for years and years and years. If you buy super cheap boots, they'll probably fall apart within the season. And then you're wearing cheap boots all the time. And then you have to keep buying them again, and by the time years have passed, during which your expensive boots would have lasted the entire time, you've purchased cheap boots so many times that you've spent the same amount you would have spent on the expensive boots or more. I mean, this is the logic of fewer, nicer things. This is the logic of a well-built wardrobe, but it's, I find, especially true for shoes. So it tells with time, and cheap shoes really drag down an outfit, and beautiful shoes can really elevate an otherwise blah outfit. So it will make a huge difference over the course of those years, whether you're wearing the expensive boots or the cheap ones, just in terms of use, value, and pleasure, But it also tells ergonomically, because cheap shoes are bad for your feet, bad for your body. What's bad for your feet is really bad for your whole body. And, expensive shoes are expensive. And here's a little bit of splitting hairs. I'm not necessarily saying every single pair of shoes that you buy should be investment shoes, should be handmade, should be, hundreds of dollars. I'm not saying that. I'm saying when you're buying shoes, ask yourself, are these my main shoes? Like, is this my main pair of shoes? Like when I was buying my monochromatic all leather Birkenstock sandals, I was like, are these my main shoes? And it was, yes, these are my main summer sandals. And I hope that they will be literally for years. I'm going to have them on my feet most of the time for half the year after year after year. So because the answer was yes, they're my main shoes, I didn't even blink at the price tag. It was quite high for sandals. I think think those shoes are $200. But because they're my main shoes, it made total sense. Now, if I were buying sandals that are a little bit more frivolous, like the sandals on the side, my side piece sandals, I would be much less likely to spend that amount of money on them, because if I ask myself, well, are these my main shoes? Are these my main sandals? Am I wearing them all the time? The answer would be no. Less expensive shoes make a little bit more sense for the side pieces. So that's why I'm not just saying shoes. Shoes all around should be expensive. No. But I do think that concentrating your shoe budget on your main pair of shoes per season or your main 2 pair of shoes per season, concentrating your budget there is always a good idea. Similarly, number 4, outerwear. One of the best places to concentrate your budget, one of the best things on which to spend your money. And maybe we should specify here and say your main outerwear, but I think a lot of people wear the same coat over and over again, seasonally, It's like you'll have your heaviest winter coat, maybe a lighter winter coat, and then maybe a transitional or spring coat. Some of us do tend to collect more coats than that, a few more on the periphery. So in that case, I would say we're talking about your main coat. And depending on where you live, you probably just need 1 or 2 or 3 kind of main coats to suit the year, to suit the seasons of the year. It's just the math of how often and how much you touch it. Compared to other kinds of clothing, you're wearing your coat way more because you're just like your underwear, but in reverse, right? You're wearing it on top of everything every day. You're in it all the time. You're touching it all the time. You're taking it with you all the time. So it matters so much more that you love it. It matters so much more that it complete every outfit beautifully, perfectly for you. Having it do that and spending a little more to make sure that it does that is going to take you so much further, get you so much more mileage than spending a little more to make sure that like a single sweater in your sweater collection, for example, does that, or a single pair of pants does that. And concentrating your budget in your outerwear and making sure that it's ideal is also going to make a huge difference to your level of comfort, keeping you warm enough in the winter, being the exact right weight for a transitional weather where you live. Just like with the shoes, the ergonomic issue, it's a physical issue, it's a practical issue as well. My example of this, after agonizing and going around and around and around, I spent a breathtaking amount of money on a winter parka this past winter, and I never looked back and I never will. And I feel like I will never need to buy another parka. This is the thing. I feel like I will not be shopping around for my warmest winter coat, maybe ever again. Let us hope, right? Ever again. Because the investment in the one that I chose, and I'll link everything that I'm talking about in case you're interested, although most of you, unless you're in the other hemisphere, aren't buying parkas right now. The investment was also in aesthetics. The one that I got, I spent a lot, and the design is so sleek, so minimal, so chic, something that can age with me, you know what I mean? Rather than something that I'm going to get tired of or isn't going to work with my style in a couple of years. And lastly, I think that according to my principle of touch, frequency of touch, one of the best, if not the best, ways you can spend your money is on grooming, on a haircut. Your hair is literally part of your body. It never leaves your body. And if you're over there, I don't know, splurging on like a pair of designer high-heeled shoes just for fun, just to have them in your closet, but you don't put resources into your haircut, you're going to wake up with that hair, that poorly cut hair, or that hair that you didn't spend time deciding about. You're going to wake up with that hair on your head every morning. I didn't grow up getting expensive haircuts. It wasn't really like the thing, or going to like salons or finding somebody who really knows what they're doing. So in adulthood, it was again like a portal that I had to walk through. I had to sort of figure it out on my own. And this is the thing, when I started doing it, when I started getting really good haircuts, kind of spending time researching, knowing what I was looking for, and specifically choosing cuts that will like wash and wear well and wear easily and grow out well and that suit my hair type. I have a bunch of videos about my specific hair and my haircut if you're curious. I have like a hair playlist, so I'll link that down below. But it will differ for you, right? I mean, for most of you, it's very personal. The point is that it can get expensive, right? A really talented hairstylist can be expensive, and don't go into debt over it, you know? I mean, everybody's situation is different, but my point in placing it on this list is to say that if you're trying to figure out where to allot your budget, right? And the haircut is kind of taking up kind of a lot of it that month, it makes sense. It makes sense according to the principle that you should put your money like close to your skin, right? You should spend on the things that you're going to actually be using because you have to use your hair. That's all that I'm trying to say. I think you get it. Let's move on to the worsts. So with the worsts, I'm not saying that you shouldn't own these things, right? I'm not saying that it's foolish to ever buy one of these things. And I think I haven't necessarily bought all of these things, but I've bought some of them. You'll see as we go through. What I'm saying is don't spend a lot on them. Don't concentrate your budget on them, even though some of these are the things that people tend to instinctively concentrate their budget on. In these cases too, and we'll discuss it as we go through, buying secondhand is especially ideal. And the first one, and this comes directly from my own experience, my own folly, and is sort of a mirror of list number one, occasional or statement earrings. Occasional jewelry. I love a statement earring, y'all. And I have a small collection of really dramatic, stunningly gorgeous statement making earrings that cost me a significant chunk of my budget each time that I bought them over the years, and that I probably would say at this point I fully regret buying, and I wish I could exchange them. I wish I could take them back and get my money back, because even though I wear them once in a while and it's fun to be able to wear them when I want to make a splash, and they're beautiful and they're artistic and they suit me and all of this, mostly they languish. I barely touch them. And when I do touch them, I don't wear them for very long at any given time. So it just doesn't make sense to have spent so much on each of these pairs. It doesn't make sense to have such a large collection of them. I might start selling them secondhand, some of them, and trying to recoup some of those costs. It makes sense. It is logical for some of us to have a pair or two of statement earrings to wear to an event or out to dinner or to something formal. It makes sense to have that facet to your wardrobe, to your jewelry wardrobe, but to be constantly concentrating your budget on that type of thing, or when you're asking yourself the question, should I really buy these? Then this principle comes into play. And if it's something that you're barely going to touch with your ears or your hands, that can help give you the information that you might need to decide not to buy them. If you're going to concentrate some of your budget on jewelry, it makes sense to concentrate it on jewelry that you're touching almost all the time. Another, and this is the one that people just can't help it with. Another worst thing to concentrate your budget on is formal wear. It absolutely fails the test of frequency of touch and frequency of wear. Formal garments are often purchased just for one occasion. You wear it just one time and then you never wear it again because it's too statement making or it's too recognizable, too specific to repeat at like another wedding with the same friend group 2 months away from the time that you wore it the first time. But why are we out here spending hundreds of dollars on those kinds of garments that you can really only wear at most a couple of times a year, but most of them at most like a couple of times in your life, if not only one time in your life? And then we're turning around and pinching pennies and spending only like $9.99 on a little piece of jewelry that you stick in your ear, and then you leave it in there for 6 months and then it like starts turning green and crumbling and staining your skin. Like, why are we doing? Why? It should be flipped. Formal wear, get it secondhand, designer consignment, eBay, borrow it from someone borrow something to wear to a wedding and then give it back. Rent. There are services now where you can rent formal wear, and even if it's like $75 and it seems like kind of a lot to be renting a formal gown just for one night and then you have to give it back, it's way better than having to spend $500 on that formal gown and then having it take up space in your closet for the next 5 years and then feeling guilty when you get rid of it. Anecdotally, I'll say the garment that I ended up wearing when I got married, I didn't actually expect to wear when I got married. I actually bought it a long time ago when I came across it. It's white, and I thought, if I ever do have a wedding, this would be a good sort of rehearsal dinner type thing. It's like a jumpsuit, a halter jumpsuit. And I thought, it's hard for me to find jumpsuits that fit, and I love a jumpsuit with a plunge neckline. I'll get it, and if I never end up using it for that, I'm sure I'll use it for something else because it's like this gorgeous formal piece. But it was a couple $100s, I think. I think it was a little more than $200, which is, nothing to sneeze at. But for a wedding garment, for the wedding garment, a steal. And it came time, my marriage rolled around and I tried it on and I was just like, this is perfect. Why wouldn't I wear this? And I'm so glad that I didn't go out and spend. What are people spending these days? Like hundreds, thousands of dollars? Like, I'm so glad I didn't go and spend $1,500 or something on a wedding gown that I would never have worn again, because I wore that jumpsuit. Maybe I'll dig it out and wear it again for something. But to me, it's always going to be like the wedding jumpsuit. And because it is now sort of in that place in my past, in a box in my closet, I'm so glad that it was only a couple $100s. I would so much rather have those $1,500 to spend on things that I'm going to be touching and wearing and using a lot for years and years and years. And I think at the time when you're shopping for something formal, especially something like a wedding gown, but even formal wear for other events at the time, you want it to be special. You want it to feel really special. It feels really tempting to make it extra special by spending a lot. And it can be hard to kind of talk yourself back from that mindset. But as someone who did talk myself back from that mindset when I was right on the precipice of it, because I loved the jumpsuit, but I was like, this is my chance to get like a really expensive, glamorous gown, you know? And I had to talk myself back from that. As someone who did and then settled for the budget option that was less expensive to begin with and that I already had, I'm just here to tell you I'm so glad that I did that. I'm grateful to my past self for having done that. Okay, number 3, one of the worst things that you can spend your money on is a garment that's outside of your lifestyle. And these often manifest to me as in-between garments that are kind of in between the types of events that I go to, the types of dressing that I do, the in between the levels of formality that I usually wear. And if you haven't seen my video about the levels of formality, which is how to make your wardrobe match your lifestyle, definitely watch that. And then this part of this video will make more sense. So if you usually wear a level 2 formality most of the week, and then you go to a level 4 formality sometimes, a garment that sort of falls in between that, that's like too fancy to wear at home, but not quite as dressy as what you usually wear when you go out to dinner, for example, an in-between thing, that is a bad choice for you. And I feel like we end up buying those kinds of things because we feel like we should like them. Maybe they have an allure for us because we're like, where do people wear these kinds of things? And then you try it on and you're like, maybe if I buy it, I'll end up going to the club or whatever it is you imagine somebody doing in a top like that. This top that's too formal for home, but not formal enough for whatever work, you know? But because it has that in-between quality, maybe you will wear it sometimes, but it's not a good place to concentrate your budget. So it's not that you shouldn't own things. You should never buy things that push you a little bit outside of your comfort zone or offer you something to wear when you go to the club, you know? But just don't spend a lot. Don't be in Nordstrom with like a $300 sequin tank being like, this is like in between formality levels. It doesn't make any sense for me, but if I wear it, maybe I'll be that girl, you know? Be in the thrift shop with a $3 sequin tank being like, I'm going to buy this and see what happens, you know? Like that makes sense. All right, number 4, it is not a good choice to spend your money to concentrate your budget on dry clean only items if you are not a person who has, I would go so far as to say, a regular schedule of dry cleaning. If you are an organized bee with a professional job and you have to dry clean your suits or whatever, and you are dropping stuff off at the dry cleaner on the first day of every month or like Friday of every week, and then you're picking it up like clockwork, you know, if dry cleaning is in your schedule, the way that grocery shopping is in a lot of people's schedule, ignore this one. Then you can concentrate your budget on dry clean only things all you want. It probably does make sense to you. But I am not that way. And many a time has a dry clean only garment called to me and begged me to concentrate my budget upon it because they tend to be more expensive, right? I feel like the fashion industry is like, well, if you can afford to dry clean, then you can afford to pay a lot for this thing, or vice versa. If you can afford to buy this, then you can afford to dry clean it, is kind of how it is. So this one has stuck in my craw a lot. And the couple of times I made this mistake, which was pretty early on in my career in fashion, I learned my lesson and it was like, never again. I have purchased some dry clean only things at the thrift shop and then washed them in water, feeling like it wouldn't be the end of the world if they got totally ruined. And actually, it's usually gone fine. Those are the cases in which I was okay with buying something dry clean only, but I didn't concentrate my budget on them. Once again, don't be in Nordstrom's with like the $200 $150 pair of pants thinking, ooh, this is going to be my splurge for the quarter. Like this is going to be my perfect pair of pants for the summer or something if they're dry clean only and you never dry clean. And lastly, a terrible place to concentrate your budget is on ultra-trendy standout pieces that you can spot from a mile away as being trends for the now. And this again is one that people get tripped up on because they tend to cost more because they're being sold for extra money, for a lot of money, because they're so trendy and people really want them, right? If you get sucked into that cycle of thinking and wanting a thing like this, then you're kind of moving towards concentrating your budget on it. I mean, maybe depending on your budget, but you're kind of getting swept up and towards the act of spending a lot on buying a thing that is going to feel really special right now. And you might be like sauntering down the street for a couple of months being like, I'm so glad I got this. I feel like $1,000,000. But fairly quickly, it's going to be that thing that everyone was wearing last month or last year or last season. And it's just not going to feel like that anymore. So even if it's well made, even if it's beautifully made, and it in theory is something that could last for a really long time, even if it fits you well and fits with your style and fits with your wardrobe and all of this stuff, if that shine that it has, that glamour, is going to kind of turn on itself and make it feel a little bit disappointing after, for some things like a year or two, it just might not make sense to spend a lot of your money on it, because if you get something similar to that, it doesn't have those hallmarks of trends that could last for years and years and years, that will never lose its shine, you'll be so much happier with it. So if you're aware that you're buying something because you've been seeing it everywhere, everyone's been wearing it, and you really want to hop on that train and it just feels so chic and cool and special, just ask yourself, is it going to feel like this again next summer? When I get to the end of the summer and I've spent a lot on it, so it's a really nice version, and then I put it away because it's still in good shape, and then I get it out next summer, is it still going to feel as exciting as it feels right now? So those are 5 of the best and 5 of the worst things that you can spend your money on. You know, your mileage may vary, as they say. One of the things that I thought of that I couldn't really categorize for this video is a swimsuit. I think that that's the perfect example of something that could be a best for you or a worst, depending on your lifestyle, according to my principle of frequency of touch. Some of us just don't go swimming that often, aren't like wearing our bikinis on the beach very often. For the past 5 years, my lifestyle has been such that it's good to have a swimsuit squirreled away, but I probably touch it just, is this sad? Like a couple of times a year. I do hope to swim more in the coming years, but it just wouldn't make sense for me right now to have spent a lot of money on a swimsuit, and some swimsuits are really, really expensive. But for some people, you know, if you live on the beach or if you have a pool in your neighborhood or something, you're wearing your swimsuit constantly, and then it would make sense to spend a lot on it and feel really good in it and really love it. So it's really not about my list. It's really about the principle. Money should go into things proportional to how much and how often you touch them. So I hope that this has made sense to you and has the potential to help you as much as it has honestly helped me make decisions, not only about what not to buy, but also about what to buy and feel good about buying. And every time I have concentrated my budget on something, chosen to do it because of this principle, I have continued to be really glad that I did it and to feel really confident that I made a good choice. And I think that these days matters as much as avoiding the bad purchases, kind of all wrapped up together. So thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate you all. Don't forget to take extra good care of yourself so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world. I think we got it.